Hi everybody, and welcome back to Teachers Talk Money, where I help teachers master their money in order to give back to themselves. Today's video, we're going to be talking all about money and love, all the ways money affects my relationship, how I combine/don't combine finances with my partner, and a couple of the things I've learned through managing money in a partnership. Before I get into the content of this video, I would just like to remind you guys to please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, leave a comment, like this video, hit the notification bell. All of these things are wonderful free ways that you can support me and help me get my message out to more and more teachers and other people who are looking for advice with their money. Okay, now we'll start. So if you guys have been with me for a while, you've almost definitely heard me mention my partner Brian a couple times. We have been dating for almost 4 years by the time this video comes out, and we currently live together here in Washington, D.C. I'm actually going to bring Brian in to film some videos with me soon. I'm going to quiz him on some money things, which will be super funny because Brian doesn't know that much about personal finance despite literally dating me. And we're going to do another video sort of talking about our money values together. But I wanted to give you guys some background on, what our financial relationship is like and all of the ways that we manage money together and what that looks like for us. So the first aspect of this that I want to highlight is that in my partnership with Brian, money for us has always been about equity and not equality. All of my educators that are watching this video know exactly what I mean, and you're having flashbacks of that cartoon of the kids at the baseball game and all of that good stuff, or the people with the tree. But for everybody else that's here for money advice, it simply means we're not just splitting every expense 50-50, but instead we're looking at the different incomes that we bring to the table and sometimes splitting expenses based on the percentage of income that we bring in order to make it more truly equitable or fair instead of just focusing on everything being equal or the same. Now, the only aspect that we actually really apply this to is our rent, because it's by far the biggest expense that either of us have. We live in a super high cost of living area, and it's the easiest to split up because it's a once a month payment. It's not like splitting up groceries percentage wise where it would be different literally every time we went to the store in a month. So our salaries have actually kept up pretty closely with one another. At the time I'm filming this, and this is definitely subject to change by the time this video comes out, but at the time I'm filming this, Brian makes about $60K as his base salary and I make $52K for my base salary. I have kept my income up even more closely with him through taking on multiple side hustles, but we recently made the decision to split our rent based on just our base income and not all of the extra work that I'm taking on. So looking at just the total household income, Brian brings in 54% of our total household income, and therefore he covers 54% of the rent and I cover the other 46%. This means that I pay $828 and he pays $972 to total up our entire monthly rent, which is $1,800. Now, the reason that this is very much subject to change by the time this comes out is that A, Brian's annual review is coming up and hopefully he will be making even more money by the time this video comes out. And B, we may not still live in this apartment when this video comes out. I'm really not sure. Our lease is up in August, and I think this video is coming out in September or October, so we haven't really made a decision as to whether or not we're staying in this apartment, and if we are, who knows what the rent is going to be, so definitely subject to change on those exact numbers, but the point stands that we split it up as a percentage of our household income instead of just splitting it 50-50. I highly recommend splitting up housing costs this way with your partner, especially if you make vastly different amounts of money. So for me and Brian, it's nice and it's helpful for me as somebody who makes less to be able to pay a little bit less. But if you're making totally different amounts of money, then you really should discuss splitting it up in a more equitable way based on percentages of your income. Otherwise, you're going to put an extremely undue strain on the partner who's making less money. Now, that's not for everybody, and if that doesn't seem fair to you, it's not what you have to do in your relationship, but it's what I would personally recommend if you're looking for ways to split up your finances. Now, like I said, I don't bring these percentages into other things like groceries or when we get food out, just because it's a lot less convenient and it feels like it adds a lot more scrutiny to the money in our relationship, which I would rather honestly just keep simple. So you can bring in percentages to other aspects of your relationship, but I feel like for me that level of scrutiny wouldn't really be productive and it would complicate things. So those are some things to consider if you're wanting to do that move. Now let's chat a little bit about combining finances with your partner. I think there are a lot of really great reasons to do this if you're in a long-term committed relationship. Because when you're working on your money goals as a team instead of an individual, you tend to reach those goals faster. And so that's the reason that a lot of people want to combine their finances when they get married, for example, or whatever the equivalent is in their life. Now, Brian and I don't combine finances. Aside from one shared account we have that is for Hattie's needs, our dog Hattie, we don't intermix our money at all, and that's for a couple of reasons. Brian and I are committed and in an established and fairly mature relationship, at least in my opinion. And so I'm not really afraid of combining finances in any way. It's just a matter that it really doesn't make sense for us or add anything to our relationship at this point. Our expenses are so easily split up or shared that it just really wouldn't make sense to start intermixing them. And secondly, we don't own any assets together. If we were to buy a house or something like that, put a down payment on a house and take the mortgage on together, then it would make a lot of sense to be combining finances, because suddenly one of our biggest assets and expenses would be something that we shared. But we rent, we don't have any shared assets, and so it really doesn't make sense for us to intermix everything. It's perfectly convenient to just keep things separate as our relationship sort of matures further. The next reason we don't combine is because Brian and I are so different with money. I sort of alluded to this earlier, but we have vastly different strengths and weaknesses. It might surprise you to hear that while I am hyper-focused on my money plans and money goals, and I just know a lot of general information about personal finance, Brian knows very little. He had no savings account like a year and a half into us dating, and I didn't even know about that. And when I found out, I was honestly shook to my core. Yeah, I truly have no words about that. Obviously, he now has a savings account, and he's come so far with his personal finance as a result of just sort of, you know, getting into the workforce, becoming an adult, and of course, having me as his girlfriend. Right now, he's at the point where he has a vague idea of where his money is going every month, mostly because we split a lot of our expenses, and he knows that I'm on track with my goals, and therefore he knows that he's not gonna like get into debt or anything like that, because he mostly spends the same amount I do and he makes a little bit more. He also invests now because he has automated a certain amount to go towards his investments each and every month. And so he's not totally helpless. Like, he's doing a lot of the right things, and he's doing it in a way that really works for him, which is not budgeting month to month like I do. He's so relaxed about it that he doesn't feel the need to do that, and he would rather just automate it and then not worry so much about the ins and outs every month. But he's not dialed in on his money like I am and would want him to be if we were combining finances. I respect his vibe with money and the fact that he's pretty relaxed about it, and he's got a really positive money mindset that doesn't, you know, he doesn't have any money insecurity or control issues around it or anything like that. So I really respect the way that he is and lives with money at this point, but it just isn't the same as me. I am so hyper-focused on my plan, and I want to make sure I'm doing everything right each and every month, and he just doesn't have that drive. Plus, he just spends so much money on Magic the Gathering cards, and I love him, but I just can't get behind that. That being said, I'm a huge believer that your partner's strengths with money can help your weaknesses, and I think Brian and I are a great example of this. his weakness is that he knew nothing about money before he dated me, and so I brought a lot of money knowledge to the table throughout our relationship, and that has obviously vastly helped him. But it works the other way around too. It's not just that he's terrible with money and I'm amazing, because he has a much better money mindset. Especially when we started dating, he really helped me a lot with sort of realizing how irrational my money mindset was. I come from a lot of money insecurity, and I have generalized anxiety, and specifically a lot of that sort of manifested itself in financial anxiety even after I was making a living wage. And so Brian has really been an extremely grounding voice of reason for me at times when I've been panicking about my money or dealing with a lot of shame or guilt around money, because he always chimes in and lets me know that I'm doing everything right and that it's okay if I make mistakes sometimes. And I am not that easy on myself. So I will say that this doesn't happen so much anymore. I've worked on my money mindset so much, and now I do really feel good about spending money, and I feel okay when hiccups come up or obstacles or I make a mistake. But especially toward the beginning of our relationship, he was extremely grounding for me in that way. And so he brought this really relaxed, necessary, positive money mindset to the table, and I brought all the knowledge, and in that way we've combined to create a beautiful team. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Obviously it's a little bit more personal, talking about how money works in my relationship, but I feel really happy to know that it's never really been a point of contention for me and Brian, and I don't want it to be for anyone else too. And I think it's so sad and scary that, you know, so many fights that couples have are about financial things. And I feel like a great way to avoid that is by really recognizing what each partner is bringing to the table, and of course having consistent and honest communication, which is like super basic advice, I guess, because that's what everybody tells you relationships are about. But to me, I think with money, it's so much more important, because everybody brings so much emotional weight to these conversations. And for that reason, you really need to focus in on those things. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, do all of those amazing things to help me reach more people with this money content. Have an amazing week, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Bye!